Okay, moving on. Question number 2 coming in here from Jeffrey. Quite a long one here, so I'll read it out. Jeffrey says, I'm looking to put a 2-bed bungalow up for sale. I chatted briefly with a local estate agent on social media who said my property had limited appeal in that it would only be of interest to people looking to downsize. He went on to say that only a local agent would know how to market it to reach its maximum value. Although my bungalow is small, it's on a good-sized plot with plenty of scope for development with large front and back gardens and side area. It does require updating, but would be a good project for someone, I think, to convert into a larger family home. I don't want to go against expert agents' advice, but I want to maximize exposure for my property. I was thinking if I should use a national estate agent rather than local to attract out-of-town buyers. If I do go for a national agency, would it matter as much if they were online only? I've read Trustpilot reviews for many of them, such as Purple Bricks, and so would avoid those. I've also been told in a forum about Keller Williams and EXP or EXT, but I have never heard of them, so I'm unsure. Also, if I use this agency type, will I have to do all the viewings myself? I was not really happy to do this. Any advice would be appreciated. Okay, great question there. Thank you, Jeffrey. Look, Jeffrey, I think there's a couple of things going on for you there with that property. And, you know, it's one thing getting a little bit of advice through social media, for example, and that may well be good advice. But what I would do if I was in your position is I would invite several agents to come down and have a look at the property. If this is something that's got potential for further development, i.e. extension, or possibly pulling it down and starting again. You could pull it down and maybe put some flats up there or some townhouses, depending upon obviously the size of the plot and access and all that sort of thing, and utilities. Then it would be an exercise that I would do where I would invite a number of estate agents down and ask them, to give you an opinion about what you should do with the property and what it's worth. But I wouldn't necessarily lead the discussion. I'd let them lead it for you, if that makes sense. So your any good estate agent who's coming to the property will be looking at what we call higher and better use with that property. Okay, so if they think, we could find a couple that are downsizing from a massive property and it's the only bungalow in that area and it's right for renovation and they know they'll pay a premium for it, then that's the agent to go to. But if another agent comes along and says, you know what, we could pull this thing down, we could get 15 flats on the site, and the development value will far exceed, or the plot value, should I say, will far exceed the value of it as a bungalow, then that might be the road to go down, So it's all about getting that information from your local experts who should be the local estate agents in the area, okay? It may also be worth checking with your local authority to see if the property is within any zones that are, any land zones that are there for redevelopment and that sort of thing, because that, again, could impact the value of the property, or whether you're in a conservation area or something like that that will restrict any kind of development or make it very difficult to get permission for redevelopment on the site, okay? Obviously, this goes without saying that I'm not touching upon any what we call ground remediation issues that might be there on the site as well that you might need to think about. So personal experience I had of a previous site where there was a bungalow on that site, and it wasn't really a bungalow. It was more of a sort of garage below with a house above, because it was on a sloping site rather, and we had to go and get planning for redevelopment on that site, and that was in a conservation area. And even though the planners said, yeah, we want it pulled down, we want it got rid of because it's ugly, it's in an eyesore, it took forever to get planning permission on that site and to get it all approved. And just when we thought we were at the final hurdle, we actually we got the planning. We were that close to getting the planning, and on the 11th hour, the council turned around and they refused the planning, and I had to turn around to the council and say, right, I'm going to sue you. And they're like, oh, you can't sue us, you can't sue us. I said, well, I don't care, but I'm going to. And it was complete bluff, if I'm honest. But it was one of those processes I had to go down because they were being completely unreasonable, because they'd actually told us twice to go down for different routes for planning. And they said both times that they would approve them. And on the second time when they refused it, I knew that I was being messed about. So yeah, within I think that was where were we? That was like 4 o'clock on the Thursday afternoon. I said, I'm going to sue you. And then on 4 o'clock on the Friday, we submitted revised plans where we dropped the brickwork on the garage by 2 courses, and they passed it. Okay, so I'm only sharing that story as a bit of an example as to some of the things you might have to go through if you're trying to battle to get planning on a site. But obviously, you need to invite the local experts out to give you some guidance on what to do with this particular property, and then cross-reference it, which is why you're inviting 2 or 3 other people out there to look at it for you. And when you are inviting these agents to the property, you'll have the opportunity to interview them and ask them, will they do things like the viewings, the accompanied viewings? Will they, help and guide you as much as possible through this process, or are they kind of going to point you in the right direction and leave you to your own devices? Okay, sometimes with a lot of these estate agents, particularly good ones, they'll come with their complete, shall we say, little black book, which includes contacts like architects or potential developers who might be interested, who will do a deal with you, maybe subject to planning, which could be another way to take all of the hassle off your back. The only problem is with a deal like that, you might be signing up to an option agreement for 5 years, and so you're restricted as to what you can do with the property for that time. So a couple of different options for you there, Jeffrey. Hope some of those help, but as I say, definitely get some advice from a number of different local experts, get them to come and have a chat with you, and then you'll begin to get a much better, clearer idea of what you can do, rather than just talking to somebody on social media or listening to some guy in India on a webinar like this. All right. So wish you the best of luck with that, Jeffrey. Obviously, anything else we can do, let me know. More than happy to give you some more guidance on that as well. All right. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. End of another webinar. I apologize if I've spoken a bit quickly. I've drunk quite a bit of coffee today to try and keep myself awake whilst we've been doing this different work in different time zones, and all the travel experience we've been doing as well, which has been pretty full on. So as I say, I've got loads going on in the background at the moment. I'm super excited to bring all of this to you, because I think we're going to shake up the market quite a bit, and we're going to ruffle a few feathers as we're going along. So that's always pretty exciting. But I think the way things are going at the moment in the economy, and interestingly, my the sort of in-laws are asking me this question: what's happening in the economy in England? What's happening with Rishi and all the rest of it? And I do see some potentially darker times ahead. I do see a big change in the property market coming. That's just my own view. Not trying to scare anybody here. I understand that there's a lot of different opinions out there at the moment with interest rates and what's happening with mortgage prices and all the rest of it. But from my side, I still think there's a lot of problems that weren't worked out from 2008. And what has happened over the course of the last sort of 14 years is that they've inflated the asset values on their bank books to try and get themselves out of a big nasty hole. But I'm still convinced that a lot of problems haven't been dealt with, which will probably start to come to light over the course of the next 12 months. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting ride. But I definitely think now, well, actually 6 months ago was the time, but now is definitely the time for any estate agents or solicitors or surveyors or letting agents or anybody who's involved in the property market. Now is the time to really start to change your game as far as how you go about marketing and selling your services, and how you go about marketing and disposing of properties for clients, because the changes that are coming, I think it's going to reward those who play the longer term game. Okay, so the whole listed on the internet portals and sell it or let it quickly is going to change drastically to it could potentially take 6 months to sell a property. And what do you do in that period of time? How do you then keep your business, the doors to your business open when you've had 18 months of delayed fees coming through your pipeline because of delayed transaction times and all the rest of it? It's playing the long game now, which is going to win. And it's only those that are embracing a lot of the things that I talk about in Estate Agent Secrets that are going to win the agency game in the future and the professional services game in the future for property professionals. So there's a lot going on, a lot of which we're trying to solve a lot of those problems for people. So it's going to be very encouraging to work with a lot of you guys in the future going forward. I'd encourage you to reach out to me if you're interested in getting ahead of the pack, because there will be a tsunami when everything starts to be released. There will be a tsunami of people coming in and saying, we need to work with you. And then it'll be too late, because can't work with everybody. We can only work with a limited number of people or a limited number of businesses to give them the level of standard of service that we want to. So I will encourage you to reach out to me before then. But certainly from our side, any members of the public who are watching this, anybody who's got any property questions at all, whatever they're related to, please send them in to us. You can send those into our website, which is WiggyWam.co.uk. Or you can send them via our email address, which is happytohelp@wiggywam.co.uk. That's happytohelp@wiggywam.co.uk. Or you can reach out to us on Twitter, which is at @wiggywam_UK. Okay, and we'd be delighted to take all of your questions. We'd be delighted to deal with them. I'm going to be around here in India for the next week as well. and it's a bit touch and go as to whether or not we'll be back from our travels in time for next Wednesday's webinar. So I'll keep you guys posted on as to whether or not that's going to go ahead or not. I'm hoping it will be, and it'll be after we've had what I think will be an enlightening experience at the top of a mountain, which will be pretty awesome. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, let's see how we get on. And if I can make it, great. We'll do another webinar next week. If I can't, we'll bump it to the Thursday and we'll run it then as well. So great to spend some time with you guys. Thank you so much indeed for tuning in. As always, as I say, any questions that you've got, send those in via the usual channels. And I'll look forward to seeing you all very soon on another episode. All right, you take care, guys. Thanks for joining me. Bye.